Alrighty then, everyone, it is Dokkan time. Excuse me while I have a cup of tea. So if you did not know, Dokkan has released a slew of new free-to-play, yes, free-to-play units that include the Z-Warriors themselves, which would be the original cast of Z-Warriors being Goku, Yamcha, Krillin, Chiaotzu, Tien, and then Piccolo / Kid Gohan. So I'm going to go in order of which units I believe is least good to best. So the first unit that we're going to do is going to be Yamcha, unfortunately, which means I do think he is the worst of all of these free-to-play units, unfortunately. There is a total of 6 units in this build video, so I do apologize, but I did not want to drag out 6 videos for all y'all to watch. A couple things to note before we get into the build for Yamcha himself. Each and every single one of these units does only have basically one team. Some of them can be stretched out onto other teams that you can kind of force into there, and that is up to your discretion. This is primarily a free-to-play team that forcibly wants to only work together, just like the Ginyu Force, the free-to-play Ginyu Force team, just like the free-to-play Wicked Bloodlines team, just like the free-to-play Team Bardock team. Usually when they make these free-to-play units, these team-based free-to-play units, they expect you to run them together. So please take that into consideration when you're running these units, and do not expect them to be like all godlike on a normal team. So I just had to make sure I threw that out there. So their role tips are basically Saiyan Saga and keep them all together. Except Yamcha. You can replace Yamcha. I'm sorry to say. So basically the order of this is going to be, I'm going to go to a unit, we're going to break down the unit, and then we're going to go over the defense, and then we're going to move on to the next unit. So with that all being said, thank you for watching. Click on the links in the description if you want to jump to a specific character. Leave a like and comment and subscribe, of course, and blah, 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 blah. Appreciate y'all. Now, Yamcha. 200 leaders are as follows. As I said before, Saiyan Saga primarily. Yamcha is a turtle school, so of course he will be 200% on the Kai Goku team. He'll be 200% on his own other Yamcha team. And then, of course, the Kid, Gohan, and Piccolo unit. As far as what his kit is, he's a 70% STR type lead. He greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn, and he lowers enemies' attack and defense. I do like the lower attack and defense. I just kind of wish it was also greatly. You'll notice that his kit is very tiny. Ki +1. Yes, Ki +1. Attack and defense 180, plus an additional attack and defense 180 when performing a super. Launch an additional attack that has a great chance of becoming a super attack, and then launches an additional super attack as the 2nd or 3rd attacker in a turn, and then reduces damage received by 70% within the same turn, once only, and performs a critical hit when HP is 50% or less at the start of the turn. His links are as follows: just Z Fighter, Solid Sport, Courage, Shocking Speed, Turtle School, and Infighter. Aside from Turtle School and Shocking Speed, pretty much every single one of these units is going to have the exact same links. Just keep that in mind. His categories are Worthy Rivals, Earthlings, Turtle School, Saiyan Saga, and Earthbred Fighters. As I said, you can primarily use these guys on other teams if you so wish, but most of the time you're not going to be able to find good link partners for them, as they only basically link with themselves. As far as, like I said, his best link partners are going to be Krillin, Tien, the other Kid Gohan and Piccolo. Pretty much all Earthbred fighters, and the Z fighters themselves is who they're going to be linking with the best. Now you will have noticed that yes, this fool can quad super. That is a potential possibility. It is something that he can do. But let's go look at the defense numbers here with Yamcha. So his start of turn defense is 113k only, so he's not a slot 1 unit. Post super, you got 477. In slot 2, 477 with 40% support, which he will probably have. 545. That's on 1 super. So if you manage to double super, you can bounce that number up to about 630 to 720. And then if you get a triple super, you can bounce that number up from 800 to 900k. And then if you magically get a quad super, very unlikely, you can get his, you can get him up to around the rough, I don't know, million range. I will say, as I like to make sure I emphasize this usually when I am stating about a unit, is that I appreciate Halvard's defense calculations at all possible times, of course, but usually in this case, this is a very unlikely scenario. It is unlikely that you're going to quad super with Yamcha for several reasons. One of those reasons being that he just doesn't, he's going to be a slot 2 or 3 unit. More than likely, you're going to float this guy. The odds of him even getting to attack are pretty low. They're pretty low. Now, I'm not saying his damage is going to be low, but this is why we point to his build over here, where I do actually suggest that you do give him a little bit of crit. And the reason I'm suggesting to give him crit is because this critical here, y'all know I say this all the time, you know, if a unit has 50% or more crit, you don't need to give him crit. But in the case of this is only when your HP is below 50% or less. That's not a consistent number to me. And in fact, I would almost dare say that if you're a team that this Yamcha is on is below 50% HP, you are potentially really causing yourself to die. So most likely you won't even be able to take advantage of this part of his passive. The 70% damage reduction will be very nice for the one time that it happens. And I think as a floater, the one time that this would break out, I think it would be pretty nice. A good key thing to be noting about this also is that this will happen as soon as you hit 50% HP at the start of the turn. So that means you have to start the turn off at 50% or less HP in order for this specifically to proc. Meaning that you can't just be, he can't be the cause of your HP loss. So just keep that in mind when rocking Yamcha. And I think that's pretty much it for his build, yeah. So we're just going to go ahead and move on to the next unit in here, which is going to be Tien. Yes, Tien is the next unit in this build video. I do like Tien. I do feel like he needed more. But of course, this is a free-to-play unit, so let's just kind of go down and look at his kit here. Once again, as 200% lead options go, it's going to be the same exact thing, Saiyan Saga focused. So you got your Yamcha and you got your kid Gohan and Piccolo. As far as his kit goes, also a tech type, 70% lead. He greatly stacks defense, and then greatly raises attack for 1 turn. Attack and defense 150, plus another attack plus 200% and defense plus 100% when performing a super. He then also gets plus an additional attack and defense plus 100%, and performs a critical when there is another Bond of Friendship category ally attacking in the same turn, and then plus another additional attack plus 30%, and reduces damage received by 7% per rainbow key sphere obtained. So we can get a very nice chunk of damage and damage reduction here. The problem being is that it's not very consistent. I will give a little heads up for you on this. The Chiaotzu that is in this free-to-play lineup does Rainbow Orb change. There is an issue with that, being that Chiaotzu specifically wants to be floating all of the time and not be on rotation. So it does cause this Tien to suffer quite a bit unless you can rearrange a team to also have another Rainbow Orb changer. You also got to keep in mind that 99% of the time, the average gameplay, even with a Rainbow Orb changer, you are probably only going to get about 2 to 3 Rainbow Key Spheres at the very most. 4 at maximum. 5 is just unheard of and almost never happens. I think it has happened to me maybe a total of 4 or 5 times in the last year alone. It's just a very unlikely thing to happen because of how orbs drop and how they end up being collected. So the max amount of damage reduction you can really expect to have with this Tien is about 21 to 28% at the most, and I would not expect any higher than that. Once again, the links are going to be the same as the rest of them: Z Fighter, Solid Sport, Infighter. This is after that, you know, that's where it kind of like varies. This guy has Courage, Telepathy, and Crane School. Chiaotzu will have the very same links basically. Worthy Rivals, Earthlings, Bond of Friendship, and Saiyan Saga, and Earthbred Fighters. Obviously, he's going to link very well with Chiaotzu. Chiaotzu is his main best partner. I mean, like I said, this is what I was trying to say before, is this team wants to run together, so all of their links are basically the same, hence they're the Z Fighters free-to-play team. So they all will link very well together. That's just how it is. I do want to take a look at the Bond of Friendship category for Tien, because without a Bond of Friendship unit on the team, or on the rotation, he actually is missing a very solid chunk of defense that you can't really ignore. Now, keep in mind, you know, Earthbred fighters, Goku, Tien, Krillin, Chiaotzu, and of course, I think even Yamcha. I think Yamcha is the only one missing from this calculation of Bond of Friendship. Nope, even Yamcha should also be rocking Bond of Friendship. And that is the one thing I would make sure you do. If you do try to rock Tien off of his free-to-play-esque team, that is the first thing I would be looking for, is a Rainbow Orb Changer and a Bond of Friendship category ally. Let's go ahead and go take a look at his defense numbers here, Compliments of Halvard, once again. So at the start of turn defense of only 92k, that's pretty low without support. You can see there's a big jump. Post Super 278 jumps all the way up to 389 on Bond of Friendship, and if you can manage to get 4 stacks, you can get him up to a 900k defense margin, and with 40% support, a mil. So the reason why his build suggestion is pretty much 100% going into additional is because of this. It's the stacking effect. You want to get this as often as possible, and I would dare say that the difference between Tien double supering turn 1 and turn 3 is night and day if you could only get 1 stack on turn 1 and 3. His defense is just so mediocre. And with the minimal amount of actual damage reduction, it's just very unlikely that he'll actually be a solid unit, you know? And that's the problem I have with him. If he had even if he just had 1 built-in additional, like a 50% chance, that would still be better than not giving it to him at all, unfortunately. So sadly, he is one of the weaker units of this free-to-play teams that I feel right now. Perhaps in an easy A will change that in the future, because he will get all of these guys will get an easy A in the future. I honestly was kind of hesitant to be making this video because I do believe they're going to be getting an easy A very soon. But anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next unit in here, which is going to be Krillin. Krillin is pretty decent. He's okay. He's not amazing. He's not super crazy. As you can see here on the right side of the screen, it's pretty obvious how you want to build him, which is full dodge, put the rest into additional, and just that's all she wrote. I honestly I hesitate to even bother going over his kit, because this should basically tell you how he's going to look. But anyways, once again, 200% options. Because he's Turtle School, he'll have a couple more options. He's also Battle of Wits. So he will have 200% with like the 5 guys, Goku. You can definitely run him on Piccolo's team. Orange Piccolo's team is an option as well. But I would dare say that this Krillin is actually even more solidified down into being just a Saiyan Saga unit, and here's why. Greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn. He also greatly lowers enemies' attack and defense and has a 50% chance to stun. Very good utility right there. Attack and defense 150. High chance of evading, which is 50% chance to evade. Plus an additional attack and defense 150 when performing a super. Saiyan Saga category allies key +1 attack and defense plus 30%. So he's a 30% support to Saiyan Saga. Plus an additional key +2 in attack and defense plus 50%, and chance of evading enemies' attack plus 20% when the target is in attack down or defense down status. I cannot stress enough to y'all how much that makes a huge difference in how good this Krillin can feel if you can lower the enemy's attack and defense. So just keep that in mind with this Krillin. He is more of going to be used in Battlefield / Ultimate Clash, Super Battle Road, Extreme Super Battle Road. Those are the things you're going to want to use this Krillin in, not necessarily actual difficult content. All allies key +1 attack and defense plus 30, and chance of performing critical hit plus 10% when there is an ally whose name includes Gohan Kid. So this is actually a very good part of his passive. With this in mind, he is actually technically a 60% support to Saiyan Saga. That's an insane amount. That's an insane amount of support, not to mention buffing the critical hit ratio, which a lot of these units are actually suffering from not having as crit. So it's pretty astonishing that they made this Krillin pretty good support. He's a very solid support unit. And just like that solid support, he actually has solid support. Z-Fire's Courage, Brainiac's Pro Skull, Kill Judgment, Shattering the Limit. So a lot of these links that you'll be sharing are Courage, Solid Support, Z-Fighters, Shattering the Limit, and Turtle School with a couple of them. And then, of course, his links, the only real difference here is probably Battle of Wits, then Turtle School. And as I said before, more than likely, your primary link partners are going to be just with the Z-Fighter free-to-play team, or it'll be with other free-to-play units. In this case, you do have a little bit of better linking with this Krillin. However, he's only on Battle of Wits, and there's not much reason to run him on like Orange Piccolo's team or anything of the form. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and go take a look at Halvard's defense stats here. If I can find it. There it is. So, pretty low. Pretty low defense. So if he manages to double super, he'd be at 589 without any support or nothing. But otherwise, he's only at 440. When the enemy is in attack down, defense down status, he can be at 520 to 700 if he double supers. And then with Kid Gohan on the team, he can have 560 to about 750 if he double supers, and then 630 to 840 if he double supers. The likelihood thing here is that more than likely you're not going to be double supering whatsoever with this guy. He doesn't have any guard, he doesn't have any damage reduction, so once again, it returns to the point that he needs to have full dodge as a support unit, and just go with that, yeah. Unfortunately, he does only have 50%. This is good for a free-to-play player, you know, a free-to-play player, starting person, this Krillin will be great on the Saiyan Saga-esque team. But otherwise, I do believe he is still pretty weak, unfortunately. He is just straight-up dodge or die. And he has very low defense to the point of where current content's normals could almost get you killed if he takes more than 2 or 3 normals even. So, with all of that being said, let's move on to the next unit, which is like, what, the second to last one, I believe? Yeah, I think it's the second to last, or, yeah, second to last of the normal Z-Fighters before Goku. So, the next one on the list is going to be Chiaotzu. Chiaotzu, my boy. So I do believe Chiaotzu is one of the better units. I feel like he is probably the most useful, I would even say. I would say he is probably the most useful out of all of these units. And, you know, that's a pretty far-stretched thing to say, especially since it's Chiaotzu. The reason I'm saying that is because this guy has a lot of utility that I feel like you can't really... Well, excuse me, you can't really, you know, discount. So, I had to have a sip of my tea. So, as far as his 200% options go, once again, Saiyan Saga, so get Gohan Piccolo and Yamcha. He has a physical 70% support. He has greatly raised attack and defense, and he has a 50% chance to stun. His kit is as follows. Attack and defense for 140%, plus another attack and defense 140 when performing a super. He has a 70% chance to dodge in slot 3. And he randomly changes key spheres of a certain type to physical key spheres. And then he randomly changes key spheres of a certain type to rainbow. And all allies attack and defense plus 40% when there's another Bond of Friendship category ally attacking in the same turn. Yo, that is pretty dang good. I'm sorry, but double orb changer, 40% support, 70% chance to dodge. He's like a fantastic dodging support unit. I'm sorry, but that's great. The best part of this passive, in all given honesty, is the fact that this is here instead of saying Tien. Because if this said Tien, he would be trash. And I say that only because then if you didn't have this right here, you would lose the rainbow key sphere, you would lose the support, and it wouldn't even be worth it. But yeah, no, Bond of Friendship is not the most amazing category, but at the same time, Bond of Friendship, that's just a bunch of Gokus. That's a bunch of Krillins. That's a bunch of Tiens. That's a bunch of Chiaotzus. So, I mean, this is a very easy thing to apply even to other teams. You can very well load Chiaotzu down with a full dodge kit of level 25, level 27, and throw him onto a team and just have him be a rainbow orb changer. And trust me when I say, he orb changes so much that it helps immensely. So that's pretty crazy. And the fact that it's all allies attack and defense plus 40%, not just Bond of Friendship. So that means he's just supporting the whole team's rotation of 40%, as long as one of the allies on the rotation is a Bond of Friendship. That's fantastic. I love that. This Chiaotzu is a great support free-to-play unit. I think this Chiaotzu is great. Z Fighter, Solid Support, Courage, Crane School, Telepathy, and Telekinesis, and then Shattering the Limit. Once again, pretty much full-on all the links activated with Tien. Now, unfortunately, the biggest weakness of pretty much all of these guys is Worthy Rivals, Earthlings, Bond of Friendship, Saiyan Saga, Earthbred Fighters. They only have about 5 or so categories, meaning that they basically only work together. Now, I mind you, Chiaotzu can be run on several of these, but primarily the only, like, not even meta-worthy team, just kind of good, would be Earthbred Fighters. Now, I'm not saying Saiyan Saga is bad, and in fact, these guys actually kind of help Saiyan Saga quite a bit. But yeah. With that, all of that being said about Chiaotzu, let's look at his defense, and then we will move on to the last unit in here. So Chiaotzu, there we are. Chiaotzu only has very little defense. He is a true dodge or die unit, I will tell you. Max possible defense of only 540 is pretty low. I don't even need to discuss to you how low his defense is, so much to the point of even with a Bond of Friendship ally and 40% support, post super a 400k defense is just poor. It is terrible, and you will die on contact depending on the unit that hits. So when I say full dodge, I do mean full dodge. Full dodge for sure. 110% full dodge. That is what he is. So let's go ahead and move on to the second to last unit here, and I'm pretty sure you can guess who it is. It's going to be the Kid, Gohan, and Piccolo unit. Now, I actually struggled thinking about if this unit would be as good as the rest, and I think this unit has the most potential to be better than every other unit that popped out of here. So let's just go into it. So once again, your 200% options are pretty low. You got a Saiyan Saga leader, and then you have Kid Gohan because of Bond of Master and Disciple. And that Bond of Master and Disciple linking category actually does help this unit quite a bit and makes it doable to run them on different teams. So, they are, of course, an AGL 70%. They stack attack and defense by 20%, and they have the ability to seal on super. So, their kit is as follows. It's pretty hefty. E plus 2, and then attack and defense plus 3% per Saiyan Saga or Earthbred Fighter category ally on the team, plus an additional attack and defense 150 when performing super, 30% chance to crit, plus an additional attack and defense plus 50%, and launches an additional attack that is a 70% chance of becoming a super when all allies are super class, and then reduces damage received by 20% when there's an ally whose name includes Goku on the team. So looking at this, you would think, yeah, they're pretty bare minimum. You know, they're not very super crazy. They don't got too much, but here's the thing. They got a little bit of everything. You got stacking capability of attack and defense. You have 30% chance to crit, which is equal to 15 in the hidden potential system. They have a 70% chance to perform an additional super, and then they have 20% damage reduction. So the damage reduction, as I said, doesn't really go very far when it's only 20%. It's like the tax. But if you focus on making this unit additional and give them defense orbs, they might actually be able to be pretty tanky. Once again, Z Fighter, Solid Support, Courage, Brainiacs, All in the Family, and Fighter, Shattering Limit. I will say that having All in the Family going off will probably make a ginormous difference on the defense. Brainiacs as well. If you could get those all going off at once, that'd be crazy. This unit is also on Joined Forces, Bond of Master and Disciple, Exploding Rage, and then Saiyan Saga and Earthbred Fighters. And their best link partners are, of course, going to be primarily Earthbred Fighters. So you got even the Goku Chi-Chi there, which is not a viable unit anymore. But you got the Krillin there, you got the Tien. This one right here is actually an interesting one to me. I feel like this free-to-play unit could be actually pretty decent, as they are kind of a dodge or die unit. But yeah, this is a very free-to-play heavy unit still, as far as links go. But yeah. Let's go ahead and go take a look at their defense margin so you can understand why I said they are as good as I believe them to be. So this is according to Halvard, of course. Full Saiyan Saga and Earthbred Fighters with 6 super attack effects. This unit's rounding out at 1.5 million defense. Double supering at 1.6, triple supering at 1.7. With 40% support, you can get up to 1.8 million defense. 6 super attack effects is equivalent to a triple super on turn 1 and turn 3. Even without the triple supering, with that good of defense, that's pretty good. Pretty good. In a long-term fight, this unit is a tank. A super tank. Super good tank. So, appearances are deceiving on paper. That is definitely something to keep in mind, of course. So, just keep that in mind. I do feel like because of just how big their defense can get and how quickly it can rise, I do feel like this unit is probably the best unit out of the free-to-play units. My suggestion for the kit is just straight up additional and then put the rest into dodge. I don't think you should be caring about damage. Yes, they can do damage, but is that their goal? No. This is a defensive unit primarily. So just go full additional, and then, of course, a defense orb. And as for all of my videos now, or at least within the last month or so, I do suggest making sure they're infinite equips that you're using. These units are a set of units that I do feel like will get their own special equipment orbs at some point. So now, with all of that finally being said, let us move on to the final unit in here, which is going to be Goku, of course. Goku is very good. He is a LR free-to-play EZA unit. He is very good. He is pretty dang good, I will say. He is probably the most versatile of the team. He has the most going on in his kit, and probably has the highest amount of damage, defense, and I wouldn't say utility, but he's pretty dang good for a free-to-play unit. They have been knocking it out of the park with these free-to-play units. I'm not lying to you there. His build is full additional dodge and then a defense orb primarily. But let's go ahead and go look at his kit here. So he is just a standard Goku, but of course, because he's Goku, he's on several different categories in here. So, you know, you got your Saiyan Sagas, of course. You got Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku. You got the new Roshi released on Global. You got the quote-unquote #1 unit in the game with the Second Coming Gohan, LR, and I honestly feel like the list of 200% options for this unit is just going to go as the game goes. He is a Saiyan Saga category, Ki +4, 130 leader, and all types 70% support. I do believe that is new. He greatly raises attack and defense on 12 Ki, and then he greatly stacks defense on 18 Ki, and then greatly raises attack. He has Ki +2, attack and defense 159, plus another attack and defense 59% when performing a super. He guards all attacks as the first attacker in a turn. Guard is nice. Reduces damage received by 30% for 3 turns from the character's entry. He launches another super attack within the same turn after receiving a super attack, and then he gets plus an additional attack and defense plus 10% with each attack received up to 30%. This does add up pretty nicely, by the way. And then he has a chance of performing a crit plus 15% per superclass ally on the team, up to 59%. And then all allies Ki +3, attack and defense plus 40%, plus another Ki +3 and attack and defense plus 59% when attacking extreme class enemies or as the first attacker in a turn. So the big key things here is that he has built-in 59% crit as long as you're running a full superclass team. I don't see you not running a full superclass team with this Goku, so this should be a no-brainer. The extra attack and defense here, he just needs to get hit 3 times. Easy to accomplish within the first turn 1 and turn 3, as long as he's in slot 1. He does get a free additional super in slot 1, basically, for getting hit once. He has the damage reduction here is the worst part of his kit, in all honesty, because it's only for 3 turns. I don't see why they had to do that. Maybe they thought he was too strong. I do admit that, you know, guard mixed with any amount of damage reduction really does make a unit absurdly tanky. So for the first 3 appearances, or the first 3 turns of his first entry turn, this means that this Goku is a unit you would want to appear on turn 3 first. That way you can have him on turn 3 and turn 5 with that damage reduction mixed with the guard. Now, he also has an active skill to use Kaioken, which does raise his attack temporarily. Which is pretty good. It's pretty good. It does help quite a bit, I will say that. All in the family, Saiyan lineage, experience fires, Kamehameha, Z fires, legendary power, etc. And then he has several different categories that he can appear on. I don't think you're going to find a perfect linking partner, per se, unfortunately. I mean, he is a base Goku, after all, so, you know, as being base Goku, you know, he definitely does have this issue of he wants to be with himself. He wants to basically be with himself. And that is the only rough part. You will be able to find several partners, like the new Grandpa Gohan from World Tournament recently. And basically any unit that has All in the Family is probably going to be his best link partner, along with Saiyan lineage and Z fighters. He actually has a decent amount of ki, and on the Saiyan Saga team, he's getting a lot of support. He's very good. He's very good. Let's go ahead and go look at his defense. And, of course, compliments of Harvard. You know, he's got a pretty big list here, but basically in slot 1, you know, post-Super 18, 750k defense. Doesn't sound like a lot, but you got to remember, this is a unit that greatly stacks defense. And then after full build-up, you're on a double super, you're rocking freaking like 1.1 million defense. With 2 super attack effects, you're up to 1.7. So every turn that you manage to get the 18 ki off on this unit, you know, after turn 3, you're rocking quite a bit of defense there. It's pretty crazy. I would say the weakest part of this unit is the fact of him having to be in slot 1 and losing that damage reduction after turn 3. That is the very most unfortunate part, because without that damage reduction, you do start to feel some damage. If a super attack comes in at you, you might die in harder content in slot 1. So that is something to be aware of. But he's very high defense for a unit that also has guard. 2 million defense on a free-to-play unit is absolutely absurd. So, let's just kind of go over the kits once again. So Yamcha, pretty much kind of worthless, unfortunately. So full additional, put the rest in the crit and just use them for free-to-play content. Tien is a full additional to try and get as many possible stacks as humanly possible with him, and then hopefully giving him rainbow key spheres to give him a little bit of damage reduction. Krillin is going to be a full dodge unit entirely. Bloody good support unit, but he really wants to be on fighting an enemy that he can actually lower attack and defense, and then of course have a Kid Gohan on the team to really fully activate his passive and kit. And then Chiaotzu is just a solid rainbow orb changing, double orb changing, by the way. He changes orbs to physical and then rainbow key spheres. So he's a great orb changer. 70% dodge in slot 3 unit, full dodge unit easily. And support, by the way. And then, of course, you have the crazy tankiness of this Kid Gohan and Piccolo unit, which can get up to very high numbers so long as you give them the additional time and defense. And then, of course, we have this Goku, which is just absurdly good with his damage, his defense, basically. He has pretty good damage, but I wouldn't say that's what his primary role is. I would say he is a very good, solid defensive unit. So, do let me know down in the comments if you're going to try any crazy different teams with all of these units. Did you decide to go with these build choices? Remember, these are free-to-play units. You can, by all means, just go ahead and make multiple copies. Switch out or orb paths whenever you so choose, because you can just use free dupes. But yeah, do expect these units to EZA very relatively soon, or at least within a year. And then expect special orbs, so please don't waste any actual good equipment on them. Use only infinite equips to really test them and see how they are. Which one of these units is your favorite one? Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good day and a good night.